I am excited to be with you all tonight. You probably all saw the announcement that I made, and here we are, right? Just less than a month away from 2026. We're going to be celebrating New Year's here coming up in just a little over 3 weeks. Can't believe it's the end of the year. But hey, here we are, and it's great to be with all of you. I truly believe 2026 is going to be huge. Everything we're hearing, whether it's here in the United States or across the world, it's all happening, right? We're hearing the news. If you guys follow anything to do with the tokenization and the blockchain stuff that's going on, if you're following it on Google, if you're following it on Facebook, wherever you get your news from, it's fascinating. All the stuff that's happening, all the different countries from Singapore, to also the Asian countries, right, and all across Europe, in the Middle East, and now here in the United States and the Americas. It's just it's reality. The whole idea of this blockchain and tokenization and everything that's going on with that is something that is going to happen, whether we like it or not, whether we're ready or not. It's coming, right? And so it's pretty exciting. It's an exciting time to be part of something new and game changing. I was around, back in 1995 when the internet was first born, and I'd heard about it. I used a modem, a dial-up modem, to get on AOL, America Online. Probably a lot of you remember all that. We've got CDs in the mail saying, "Hey, you should join the internet," and and a lot of people are like, "What is this thing?" Well, we're in that same point in time right now with blockchain, right? People are hearing about it. They're hearing about Bitcoin. They're hearing about all this stuff going on, and people are still thinking it's a scam. They're still thinking it's a some weird thing, that it's a fad or a trend or whatever. But for those of us in the know, we know it's more than that, right? It's happening. And so we're privileged to be at the forefront of it all, right? We're privileged to actually have gotten to know about this before the masses. And so tonight, what I want to train on is just that whole concept of blockchain and decentralization in a way that is simple to understand. I've tried to put this together in a simple, straightforward, where somebody that's not technical, not experienced with it, can kind of get a grasp of what is happening. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into that. I'm going to pull up the presentation now. And here we go. All right. So welcome to Kaizen Coaching. Blockchain, right? Blockchain and decentralization. So the big question, what is all the fuss about? Right? Why should I even care about any of this? It looks so complicated. This infographic here, right? It's just, you look at that and you go, huh? What is mining? What is an ICO? What is transaction? What are smart contracts? What are all these things? And it can be a little bit overwhelming, honestly. So we're going to try and break this down, make it super easy so that everybody can kind of hopefully get a better idea. And again, one of the analogies I always like to use is that when we're driving a car, we don't all have to know all the parts and pieces of an engine. Like, okay, what is the carburetor and what do the spark plugs do and what do the fuel injectors do, all those different things. I mean, it's useful to know those things, right? It's useful to be able to go in and say, oh, yeah, this part's not working right, and this could be the reason it's not starting up or whatever. But for the masses, the majority of people, we don't need to know all that stuff. All you got to know is that if you get in your car and you turn the key, and as long as there's gas in the tank and everything's running like it's supposed to, you can drive, right? And it'll get you from point A to point B and in comfort, hopefully, right? But so if you want to know about mechanics, if you want to understand all the parts and pieces in an engine and what the pistons are and how everything's going, then great. right? That can be very useful, and you can kind of, do your own self-diagnosis and stuff. But for those that don't want to know all the gobbledygook, then hey, you don't need to. You just need to know the basics and just know that it is working. Okay. But that being said, here's the basic scenario. All right. So let's assume that you want to send $1,000 to a friend in another country, right? So if you go to your bank and you say, hey, Mr. Banker, I would like to send $1,000 to my friend in Japan. So what is the bank going to do? They're going to take your $1,000, and it's going to take about 3 to 7 days. And there's going to be a $30 to $50 fee for that. Okay. And you have to trust that the bank is not going to freeze your money. And you have to trust that the bank has a full record of everything you do. And they might report that to the IRS and say, hey, you know what? Jeremy just sent $1,000 to Japan. He might be doing something sketchy, right? And then you're looked at. And anyway, and I actually this is a real scenario. I actually had the opportunity to go to Japan in June of this year. So about 6 months ago. And this exact thing happened to me. I was trying to send money to my friend who was getting everything ready for us, right? And I was going to reimburse him for some of the stuff for the hotel and flights and things. And it got frozen. The transfer got frozen. I had to go over to the local branch and talk to the person, the teller, and she had to look into things, and she had to verify all this stuff. And finally she was able to get it authorized, and they were able to send the money. But because it was a significant amount, I think it was like $2,000, and because it was like that, they had to do all these verifications and checks, and it just was frustrating, right? But what if I could have sent that money to my friend in Japan, that same $1,000 or $2,000 in minutes, and it only cost me a penny with no bank in the middle? Okay. That is the promise of blockchain. That right there, that scenario, that is the initial concept of what blockchain was all about when it was first born a few decades ago, was this idea of not having to have an intermediary, right? It's no bank in the middle, no other kind of thing trying to verify it and charging fees and all that stuff. It was this idea that because it was decentralized and it was a trusted platform, that I could send money quickly and very economically to somebody halfway across the world. Okay, so that's the solution that we're providing for people. That is the benefit we're providing. And from there, it was adopted into so many other things, right? So what exactly is the blockchain? Well, a lot of us have used Excel, okay? So think of the blockchain just like a great big Excel file. That's what it is, okay? The difference, though, is that this ledger, this Excel file, happens to exist on thousands of computers all around the world. All the computers that make up the blockchain, okay, this giant ledger, global ledger, all have a copy of it. And once something is written, it can never be erased or changed. Okay, so it's a permanent. So the way the technology is built is that this ledger is encrypted, it's secure, it's safe. So all the data, all the transactions, the record of things happening, money going back and forth, whatever it is, it's permanently in that file. And because it's duplicated over thousands of computers all around the world, it doesn't matter if one of them gets erased or one of them crashes or one of them, the person that has it says, "Ooh, I'm going to go in and make a change because I'm a corrupt person," and right? No, it doesn't matter, because all the rest of the other thousands are going to say, "Nope, we have the true copy. We have the true version of that original record." Okay. That's why it can never be erased or changed, because everyone can see it, right? Anybody that has the blockchain explorer can go on and see what the transactions were, not specific things, not things like, oh, Jeremy sent $2,000 to Junichi in Japan. No, right? That's private. Okay. But the fact that I did, the fact that my wallet sent money to his wallet can be seen. Okay. That's a permanent record that can be seen and verified. And no one single person or company controls it, meaning it's decentralized. So you don't depend on a government or a CEO or an owner or anything, right? It is absolutely independent from any of those centralized entities that could potentially take over or manipulate or do something with it, right? And so that's why it can be trusted. It can be trusted. How cool is that, right? When we live in a world where nobody even believes in the government anymore. It's just you hear all this stuff, and it doesn't matter whether it's the United States or Great Britain or Japan, like all of them, every country, every corporation, they all have a little bit of there's some like, oh, there's a concern there. Can I really trust these companies, right, with my information and stuff? So or the government even. So no, it's that's the beauty of all of this, is this ledger never can be erased, never can be changed, never can be corrupted, manipulated, any of that, right? It's total transparency. It is amazing what blockchain does. All right. So let's talk a little bit about centralized versus decentralized. So centralized, right, which is what most of the world is still on, is the bank, it's Google, it's the government, and they can censor it or they can shut it down. You have to trust them. There is a single point of failure. But decentralized blockchain means it's on thousands of independent computers, almost impossible to shut it down. You can verify it yourself, and there is no single point of failure. Wow. How cool is that, right? We're going to be able to basically trust the system again, because it can't be manipulated or censored or any of that. It is really, really cool. All right. So here's the short history. Okay. So way back in 1991, there were a couple of guys, Stuart Haber and Scott Stornetta, right? And they figured out a concept of cryptographically protecting chains of blocks. And what are the blocks? They're these like Excel data spreadsheets. Okay. Think of them like that. Right. Then in 1998, another guy, Nick Szabo, worked on what was called BitGold, or a decentralized virtual money. Interesting. Okay. Then in 2000, another guy named Stefan Konst, he presented his cryptographic secured chain theory, which was this idea of putting them all together in a chain, right, in a database kind of thing. And then in 2008, what happened? 2008 was a big year because two things happened. Number one, the global financial crisis happened and people lost trust in banks, right? Because they realized that the banks were being sketchy and the banks were doing things they shouldn't have. And they were doing crazy kinds of loans and it was just a mess. And so everything collapsed and the government had to step in and they had to bail out the banks. And it was a mess. For those of us that were around 2008, remember, not pretty. A lot of people lost their businesses. It was just a bad time. And so a certain individual named Satoshi Nakamoto, who is an anonymous person, we don't really know who that is. That name is not a real person's name. Okay. Some people assume it was an individual. Some people assume it was a group. Some people assume it was the CIA. We don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is or was. But all of a sudden, there was this thing called a white paper that was released, which defined the model for a blockchain. Interesting. And so Satoshi Nakamoto publishes that white paper on Halloween of all days, right? October 31st, 2008, as a solution. Okay. And then in 2009, shortly after that, the first Bitcoin block, or the Genesis block, was mined. It was when it went live. So this new ledger, this online cryptographic ledger, was first introduced. And then from there, there's been all kinds of cool things like the Ethereum, technology, which is kind of the 2.0 of Bitcoin. You can do more than just money, right? That's where this whole concept of blockchain and securing things, not just transferring of money, but other things. Other things can be secured, other information, other data, right? That's what Ethereum was. It was kind of like this version 2 of the blockchain world. And they realized, oh, okay, that yeah, blockchain can be used for other means of exchange. And then from there, from 2020 on, right, now you have all these governments and banks and big companies. They're all starting to use blockchain. Everything from BlackRock, JP Morgan, Walmart, all of them, right? And it is now in the billions, soon to be trillions of dollars that are going to be on blockchain. In other words, tokenized. All right. So why does this even matter? Right? So you say, okay, that's cool. Cool history lesson there. But why does it matter? And it all comes back to what I mentioned in the beginning: trust. Trust is expensive. Okay. It's right now. There was a survey I saw that they basically interviewed all. I can't remember how many people, but it was like your trust in government, your trust in institution, your trust in it's the lowest it's ever been. People don't trust the government anymore. People don't trust businesses and institutions. That people are just realizing that there's way too much corruption, way too much spin, way too much whatever, right? Doesn't matter. The politics, the everything is all about, it's just the greed and the me and the money, and how can I make money, and how far can I go before I get in trouble, all that stuff, right? Going into the gray areas and stuff. So trust is expensive. And we all know, to get trust, supposedly, whether it's the bank or a notary or a lawyer or a platform or whatever, you got to pay the fees and you got to do the time, right? You got to go meet with them. You got to talk to them. You got to do all the verification stuff, all those things. Okay. It's expensive. And the bad news is that they can make mistakes, or they can even act against your interest, right? They might accuse you of something, and you're like, wait a second, what do you mean, right? Because they question everything. They don't give you the benefit of the doubt. They don't trust you. And in many countries, you can't even open a bank account. You can't, right? It's, like I deal with Latin America a lot. And in most of Latin America, anywhere south of Mexico, it's almost impossible. You got to have literally thousands of dollars. You got to be in the way upper class before you can even open up a bank account. Like, they just won't do it for you. And it's crazy. And then, of course, all the censorship, right? Governments or companies, it can block your money or your speech. It can freeze your funds, whatever it is, right? So blockchain removes the middleman. It becomes cheaper, it becomes faster, it becomes fairer. There's all these benefits here, like it mentions. It's unalterable, it's real time, security, transparency, no single point of failure, reduced cost, trusted transactions, no third party involvement, all those things, right? That is huge. Okay. So, but how does it actually work? That's the other big question. How does this all work? Well, let's assume, okay, in this scenario, we're sending some money. So Alice wants to send Bob 1 Bitcoin. Ooh, right? Now today, that's a lot. I wish Alice would send me 1 Bitcoin, but whatever. Alice is not sending me Bitcoins. But hey, here's what happens. A transaction is requested, Okay. And so there's a block, right? There's this Excel spreadsheet out there, right? They think of it that way, that represents the transaction, and that's created, it's written into that ledger, into that database. And then it gets copied to all the nodes, all the computers, okay, in the entire network. And all of those nodes then validate it, right? They all talk to each other and they all agree, yep, I got it, I got it, I got it. Yep, it looks like this. Yep, okay, we're all in consensus. Yep, we all have the right information. Yep, it looks the same. Yep, okay, cool. So they all have it and they all validate it. And so once it's all validated and they all say, yep, we're good, that block is real and it's trusted, then they add it to the blockchain where it's now a complete transaction and it's permanent. Okay. So it's all crypto, they call it cryptocurrencies, right? Because it's encrypted. That's what that means. It's encrypted. It can't be messed with. It can't be touched. It can't be changed. It can't be hacked, any of that stuff, right? So they all agree, yep, Alice sent that money to Bob and it's real and it's done. And so the money moves out of Alice's wallet. It's now in Bob's wallet and boom, it's permanent. Okay. So that's how it actually works. Okay. So all the computers all across the world. So if somebody owns a node, when we say we own a node, what does that mean? Back in the early days when it was Bitcoin, then people would do it on their own computer, right? You do it on your own laptop or your own computer, whatever. That record was stored locally. It was stored on that person's computer, and they would get the Bitcoins, right? The reward from participating in that transaction. It would be placed into their computer. That's why you hear stories about people who did Bitcoin mining way back in 2009 and stuff. And then they had hundreds or thousands of Bitcoins or whatever. And then they threw that computer away. They donated it, to somebody or whatever. It went to the landfill. And then they're like, I lost all my Bitcoins because they were literally on the hard drive of that local computer. And people were scouring through the landfill trying to find their old computer, the old hard drive they threw away, right? So they can get their Bitcoin back because it was stored locally. Nowadays, and you could still do that. There are some people for certain coins and things that you can mine it from your own personal computer or on your phone or whatever. But for the big coins and the real layer one blockchains and stuff, it's all done in the cloud now. Okay, so it's all done through what we call hosting. So basically, you have server farms that are all over. You've got some in California, some in Texas. They have server farms and so what happens is that when you host something, you use a third-party hosting company, okay? And that third-party hosting company, you pay them a small monthly fee to use some of they have a whole great big data center, right? They got a giant warehouse full of computers all hooked up to the internet, and you're just basically, when you're hosting it, you're renting a little tiny piece of that, and so usually very inexpensive, usually only $1 or $2 a month for that hosting. And that way you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to do it on your home computer. You don't have to worry about your computer hard drive crashing or getting lost or stolen or whatever, right? It's all out there. And of course, those are all duplicated and protected, and they go back and forth. So if all of a sudden there was an earthquake in California, it's okay because it's backed up in Texas, right? And Texas has another copy of it all. And anyway, so that's what they do. They do what they call redundancy. Okay, so it's all redundant and it's all backed up. You don't have to stress about, there's a tornado took out the data center or whatever. No, it's always backed up somewhere else, usually multiple places. So that's what it is. So we don't have to host it ourselves anymore. It's just out there in the cloud, but it's yours, right? You own it. It's your participation, providing that verification and that little bit of hosting space that requires. Okay, so beyond money, let's talk a little bit about what happens now. So First, we were talking about sending Bitcoins or money, right, back and forth. Well, now we can turn any real world asset into a digital token on the blockchain. Like literally, we can do fine art, antiques, land, technology, gold, mine, really, whatever. Okay. It's really, really interesting. Real estate, you can own, let's just say 1% of an apartment building in Tokyo from your phone. Art and music, right? We call those NFTs. And what it does is it protects the original copyright. Okay. So it proves that you own the original of some music or some artwork or whatever, so that you can now get royalties on that forever because it's yours. You can prove that it was yours. You don't even have to use the copyright office anymore, right? Copyright office is a centralized system that's subject to corruption and manipulation and all those things. But if it's an NFT on a blockchain, you don't have to worry about all that. You can just automatically prove it. Hey, that was mine. I was first. Stocks and bonds. This is the way things are going. Okay, you can trade 24/7 with instant settlements, no 2-day waits anymore. You can even do gold and diamonds and carbon credits, all those things, right? You own the actual asset, not just an IOU from a bank. And even identity and credentials. So you could prove your diploma. You can prove that you actually went to school and got a diploma, right? How many people falsify that on their resume or your driver's license, right? Or any of those. No more, oh, I forgot my password. You don't have to worry about those things. Okay. It's all verified. And we can even go as far as like voting, right? You want to verify that elections are fair and real. Yeah. All these things can be done through tokenization, which is just basically using blockchain technology to make sure that it's all real. Okay. So it's all happening right now. Okay. Right now. So they've got companies like BlackRock and Fidelity. Yep. The largest tokenized fund right now, over $1 billion. You got governments like Switzerland and Singapore and the UAE. They're all tokenizing government bonds and other things. You got companies like Walmart and IBM that are doing their supply chain on blockchain, right? You can know exactly where your food came from. It's really interesting. So, when you have things like, oh, there's a recall because maybe some product had contamination or E. coli or whatever, right? They can track it so much easier knowing where it got sold to, the whole logistics, like where it came from, which warehouse, which all the way to from the farm, right? From the farm all the way to your house, they can track and know where it went and who touched it and everything. Really amazing. Then you got things like Ondo Finance and Centrifuge, which are doing billions in real world assets, invoices, treasury bills, all tokenized. And then you even have real estate, right? And this is happening in the United States, in Germany, in Australia, okay? All these countries are starting to experiment with the idea of, oh, okay, this property is now on the blockchain. You know how when you buy a house, you have to get title insurance, right? Because you just don't know what's going to happen. And it's all run by the county. And so the county, make sure that, okay, who actually owns this property and who has a lien on the property and all that stuff. Well, if it was all on the blockchain, you wouldn't need to buy title insurance anymore. Whoa. Okay. And the train has already left the station. This is not something that's in the future happening, down the road. No, it's all happening now. All right. So what are the advantages? Well, it makes everything fast, right? 24/7 markets. You can actually have fractional ownership. How amazing is that, right? Yeah, you get instant settlements, seconds, not delays. It's truly global. Anyone with the internet can participate from anywhere. It's programmable, right? You can set it up so royalties are paid automatically for forever and no middleman involved, right? It's just, oh yeah, you did this song and somebody downloaded it and paid 99 cents to listen to your song, and you automatically get a percentage of that, and it's just all instant, and you don't have to wait for anybody to approve it or verify. It's just how it all happens automatic. It's so cool. All right. Well, are there challenges? Of course, right? Because, with Bitcoin, for example, it still uses a lot of energy, right? The Bitcoin transactions and stuff, yeah, a lot of electricity. It's very expensive. And people are worried about, yeah, okay, it's going to affect the environment and stuff. And it also prices people out because now only the super rich governments can actually do it because it costs so much for the electricity. But because a lot of blockchains are moving to the proof of stake model, like Ethereum, right? Now it's 99% less. Okay. And the other thing is, regulation is catching up, right? We're not there yet. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to happen in the laws and regulations and things, but it's happening. It's starting to go, right? And we're seeing that here in the United States and other countries that are adopting this, and they're passing laws to make sure that it's all defined and people know what to do. And currently, because it is still early, yes, there are some scams and there's some hype, right? Just like there was with the internet back in 1999, of course. That's not going to change for a while. It's going to take some time for people to adopt it and adjust it and to work through some of the bugs and issues and things. But the user experience is getting better every month. Okay. So every revolutionary technology looks messy in the beginning, and then it just gets better. Just like, what we saw with the internet way back, right? So here's what the internet looked like for those that remember 1995. The internet is slow. It's complicated. It's full of scams. Why do I need this? Right? You can see, yeah, remember the original Google beta, right? And there was Ask Jeeves and Yahoo and MSN, all right. The original internet, what it looked like, it was pretty messy. And look at this, we got the original Bitcoin forum. This is where all things Bitcoin happened, was just on this forum, right? So there you go, November 22nd, 2009. Welcome to the new Bitcoin forum. Mr. Satoshi was there talking about, hey, this is what Bitcoin is. And people were going, huh? And there was only 364 people actually doing anything with it, right? This is literally it's right after it was born. Okay. Not even a month after it was born. So yeah, that's what Bitcoin looked like. There were no fancy wallets, there were no fancy apps that you could use. It was truly the wild, wild west. Well, guess what? We're in the same point right now, right? Where people said, oh, the whole internet thing is crazy, but here we are, 2025. We're watching all this on the internet, and we can't live without it. So what's 2035 going to look like, right? 10 years from now, what's the world going to look like? How is it going to be different when everything is on chain? It's going to be fun. So here's the other cool thing. Blockchain is not just about cryptocurrency. Okay. So I think the key takeaway from all of this is don't confuse blockchain with Bitcoin. It's not synonymous, right? They're not the exact same. It's the whole idea of blockchain is not just, funny money, monopoly. No, what it is it's about who we trust and how the world will share value in the 21st century. Okay. So unlike Web 2.0, I thought it was when I put this picture of the original McDonald's website. Okay. McDonald's.com. That's what it was. It had Ronald McDonald, and you could go on there and you could place your little order of, your quarter pounder with fries and your shake or whatever. That's what the original McDonald's website looked like, guys. It was so funny. I saw that and just had to laugh out loud. But anyway, that's Web 2.0. Okay, Web 2.0 was good, and it's changed the world. It literally has. Well, with Web 3.0, we now have the opportunity to have ownership, but contributing to the blockchain through either node ownership or through just participation in the ecosystem. Okay. So just like back in the day, the whole thing was get yourself a domain name, right? The .com boom was about owning a domain name. It was how fast, oh, I'm going to go get pets.com. I'm going to go get, whatever, purple.com, right? And then you would hold on to that domain because you owned it. You owned that domain back in the 90s. And then there are stories about people that would sell that domain, right? They would sell it to, like Microsoft would buy domain names from people for millions of dollars because they owned it. They owned that name. Microsoft wanted it. Like, oh, we want that domain name. So, we'll buy it from you for a lot of money, right? And that's how it was. And if you had short names that people could easily remember, right? That was like super amazing real estate that you had owning, Web 2.0 was basically owning a domain name. But now, guess what? Now with Web 3.0, we don't just own the real estate. We actually get daily rewards for providing the verifications and participating in the ecosystem of the blockchain. How amazing is that, right? You don't have to wait and see if McDonald's is going to come around and buy the domain from you, right? Because you got it first. No, just by owning a node, just by providing value, just by providing the service of verification, and then by participating in the ecosystem of the whole blockchain community, guess what? You get daily rewards, daily payout as a thank you for making it a reality. That is the difference. You can start so easy. So does that sound like fun? Are you ready to be rewarded? Well, let's talk. Let's go ahead and jump into the next portion of our presentation today. We're going to talk about a specific blockchain that I think is unique and amazing and special and is going to change the way we do things on a daily basis, because it's cool to say, yeah, I can send money back and forth, and it's cool, and there's blockchains for banking and money, right? And there's other blockchains for supply chain, and there's other blockchains for all these different things we talked about, right? But what if there was a blockchain that worked with all the stuff we do on a daily basis, right? All of us are, whether we're watching movies and TV shows, whether we're storing our pictures up in the cloud, whether we're doing a meeting like we are right now, right? Whether we're traveling, whether we're going out to dinner or shopping or, buying Christmas gifts, whatever it is, all the things that we do on a daily basis, yeah, they're going to be on the blockchain too. And that is where Cirrus comes into play. Okay. Cirrus Networks is the marketing arm for a blockchain called Nodi. So we're going to talk about that and really try to understand how we can now all participate in blockchain from the beginning. Okay. Now, I do need to say this disclaimer. Everything we talk about tonight is about potential. It's about there's rewards and and things involved with blockchain, but we are not talking about investment, and we're not talking about any kind of guarantees of income. This is not a financial product. It's not anything like that, right? Where you're investing money and trying to get some kind of a return on it. Nothing like that. Okay, no passive income. What we're talking about is this idea of just participating in the ecosystem, and because you're providing value, there are rewards involved. Okay, and there's a potential business opportunity where if you want to invite people to know more about blockchain and what we're doing, then you can actually earn some commissions that are paid in actual dollars, okay, based on the compensation model. And we'll describe that here in a bit. Okay, so the future, right? This is the future. We're here. We're here. The future is now. The world is changing and it's all going decentralized. Okay. People are rejecting all the stuff with the big tech and the big government and all those things. And the tech giants, that's where they got all their money, right? The tech giants would profit from all your information, from providing the services, for charging all the fees, all that stuff. That's what they would do, right? Whether it was tech giants or banks or whoever, governments. Okay. Now we have a fair, transparent, and decentralized way to do all these things. And we talked a little bit in the previous section about decentralization and why it matters. And of course, there's other examples of decentralization, like companies that provide rideshare, Uber and Lyft, companies that provide delivery services like DoorDash, right? Car rental, Turo, Fiverr, for different kinds of things like graphics and design and music and stuff like that. Airbnb for providing rental spaces. So all those things, what decentralization did was allowed people to participate in all of these things, from being a taxi driver to being a hotel owner. It brought it to the individual. It brought it home. It brought it to the person just wanting to do a little side gig, right? They call that the gig economy, because it lets people just on their own time, whenever, like if I want to go drive Uber, I can do it for an hour. I can do it for 5 hours. Doesn't matter. It's up to me. I am my own independent business person, right? And I have the right to go and do it whenever I want. And Uber provides that technology. But I don't own those companies. I'm not getting rewarded. If I clock out of Uber, I'm not driving, then I'm not getting paid, right? But through blockchain integration, we actually do have ownership, which means we actually can get rewarded, even though we're not actively, doing the driving or the creating or whatever. So pretty cool, because we now become what we call a digital landlord, and we benefit from the participation in the community. Okay. This replaces all that centralized grip that there's so many things in our lives that control us, right? So digital landlord, it's such a fascinating concept that they trademarked the name. Okay, so gotta love that. We want to be digital landlords. So why is that cool? Well, it's all happening, right? Here's some quotes that I pulled that just show how real this is. Henry Zhang, CEO of DigiFT, he said, Amazon, if you think back, Amazon, they were a bookstore, online bookstore, right? Back in the 90s, they were born years before they sold everything. Nowadays, Amazon is everything. Okay, they started out as a bookstore. Now, over however many years it's been, I guess about 30 plus years, right? So now they sell everything. Okay, and tokenization is doing the same thing. It will start simple, right? Just sending money back and forth, trusted assets, and so on, before it will scale into the complex, which means everything. Everything will go on blockchain. Everything will be tokenized and connected by a blockchain one day, says Fred Earsom. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, one of the largest companies on the planet, he says, we're at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets, from real estate to equities to bonds. And then Eric Voorhees said, I'm much more confident with crypto than with banks or fiat currency, because I can actually control it, and the money supply is transparent and stated up front. It makes online shopping a lot easier and a lot safer. All the benefits, right? You can trust it. You have control over it. You don't have the risk of somebody taking it away from you or freezing it or losing it. Okay. It's so refreshing. That's the world we're entering right now. And we get to be a part of it by participating in this blockchain, Noti, offered by Cirrus Networks. Okay. Now, a lot of people, you say, oh, I want to be part of XRP, or I want to be part of Bitcoin, or I want to be part of, there's all these different ones, right? Stellar, XLM, there's a bunch of them. There are literally thousands of coins out there. There's only 39 layer one blockchains, though. 30, that's it, 39. 39 layer one means that they're the root ones. They're the core blockchains in the world. Okay. All the other thousands of what we call meme coins or, fake coins, they are layer two or above, right? They're just on top of one of the layer one blockchains. And so Nodi is a layer one. It's one of the original, it's the foundation, one of the foundation layers of a blockchain. And it's all about offering AI integrated products that we all use on a daily basis that also offer daily rewards. Okay, just like I was talking about, where now all the daily stuff we do can be tokenized. So it's built on this decentralized blockchain, so it can be sovereign and have transparency and all that stuff. But now you get to participate and be rewarded by being part of this amazing community. So what is it all about? Well, to participate in this, you need to have what's called a node. Okay, so the node is one of the computers that provides the power and the infrastructure and the storage space for a blockchain network. Okay, so hosting your node, it fuels that blockchain. It makes it possible. And what's so cool is that this is worldwide, right? So you could be in Australia or in Japan or United States or Europe, and you can participate. You can buy your node license, and now it doesn't matter where it's hosted, right? It could be hosted in the United States. It could be hosted in Japan. It doesn't matter. But wherever it's hosted, it's all backed up, right? They're all talking to each other anyway, and so you get to have a piece of it, and it's all seamless. Okay, very simple process to set up and contribute into this global network. And why would you want to do that? Well, because it's more than just rewards, right? We like to say, live your life and be rewarded. So through active contribution, you now get to be rewarded. By hosting a Nodi node, obviously you get a big piece of that, okay? Because you're playing an important role in supporting and securing the blockchain network. But there's also incentives for other kinds of participation. All right. So node holders, yeah, they might receive some digital Nodi tokens for providing the structure and all of that. But you also get rewards for participating. And I'll give you an example. This meeting we're doing right now, just because I'm hosting a meeting on this platform, the activity of doing this, I'm earning rewards for that. Okay. I'm being rewarded for doing something, not just for owning the node that makes it possible, but also because I did something. Okay. And the final cool piece of this is that you actually gain a voice and a vote. When there's different ideas or enhancements that they want to make, they'll send out notification to all the node holders, node owners, I should say, and say, hey, we need you to vote. We need you to, say, hey, I agree with this. I disagree. I think this should, it should be implemented or it shouldn't, whatever. All of that happens and you get to have a vote. You have a say in how things move forward. It is really, really cool. It's a community. Okay. Now, another example I like to use for people to understand this is the idea of the goose that lays the golden eggs, because a lot of times people confuse and say, oh, okay, so the Nodi rewards, right? The Nodi tokens, they're like the Bitcoins. And so I just want to buy a whole bunch of coins and, and hold on to them and hope they go up in value or whatever. And, yeah, that's like owning the golden eggs. I mean, it's good. Of course we want the eggs, right? Of course we want them. But what we want more than just buying a whole bunch of golden eggs is we want to have the goose. We want the goose that's going to lay those golden eggs every single day for us, right? So, just like you have your goose and you need to feed it, you need to take care of it, right? You need to make sure it's got food and water and all those things. You could call that the hosting, okay? You're hosting your goose. And so by paying your monthly hosting fee for your node, you're keeping it alive, right? You're making sure that it's live and going and paying out the daily rewards to you, just like you owned that goose that was laying those golden eggs for you. Okay. So how do you get yourself a golden goose? Well, lots of ways to participate. You can get a full goose. Okay. So a full goose or a full nody node is $11.97 or $1,200, right? One time. These are one-time costs, right? So you buy yourself a golden goose for $1,200. Or if you can't afford that, you say, that's a bit out of my price range right now. That's okay. You can get yourself a half node for 597, $600. Okay. And you think, oh, even that's a little bit much right now. I'm saving up for Christmas or whatever. That's okay. Guess what? You can get a quarter node for just $297 one time. That's okay. That's reasonable. That makes sense. Or if you can't even afford that, guess what? That's okay. You can get yourself what's called a mini node, okay? A mini nody node, and those are just $100. Now, if you're doing that, the company likes that you put it onto a subscription, because you have to think of it this way. A mini node is an individual node, okay? You could technically buy one and be done. You don't have to put it on subscription if you don't want to. Okay, you could cancel subscription and just have the one, or you could do it for 2 months and just have two mini nodes, right? But the idea is that you're kind of in a way sort of like financing, right? Because you're saying, oh, full node is 1,200, but I can't afford that, so I'll just do $100, and I'll just kind of do $100 a month, right? And just kind of build it up, and eventually, once you have 10 mini nodes, well, that's actually kind of the same thing as having a full node, okay? Because the other example we like to use is it's kind of like owning an apartment building, all right? So think of, okay, I've got this apartment building and it's got 10 units in it, right? 10 apartments. So if you buy a full node, that's like buying a full apartment building with 10 units, but maybe you can't afford that, right? Maybe you can't afford the whole apartment building, but you can afford one apartment in that building, right? And so you buy that, and that's one. But then maybe, later you got some more money and you're like, ooh, I'm going to buy a second apartment in that building, and I'm maybe rent it out to somebody or something, right? And then, oh, now I'm going to buy a third apartment, right? And eventually you can buy all 10 apartments and now you own the whole building. Okay. So that's a similar kind of concept. You can buy the full node, you can buy the half node, like there's 5 units, or quarter node, it's like owning 2.5, or one node, or one mini node, which is like owning one apartment. Okay. Now, here's the other cool concept, and this is what makes the Node blockchain different from all the other blockchains out there. There's not tons, but there's a bunch of other blockchains out there that sell nodes, very similar. Okay, and they're all similarly priced, right? A full node, they're usually about $1,000 plus. Okay, depending on which project you want to be, part of, and which is great, and there's lots of them, and they all do different things. And they all pay out daily rewards and the whole deal, right? And it just depends on what you're passionate about and what you like. But what I personally like about Nodi is that it's the only company out of all of them that I've seen that actually offers half nodes and quarter nodes and even mini nodes, right? Nobody else does. They're all selling the full nodes and that's it, okay, in other projects, which is fine. But what's really, really cool about Nodi is that not only do you have half and quarter and mini nodes, you have micro nodes. What's a micro node? Well, a micro node is a service. It's a daily service that everybody knows and loves. And we all pay monthly subscriptions, right? For our subscriptions, or for our things we love, like whether it's streaming our movies, or paying for our cell phone, or maybe a meeting software like the one we're using right now. All these things are subscriptions that we pay for because we like it, right? You can't live without our cell phone service. Everyone's got to have a cell phone nowadays, right? And most people are paying for some kind of streaming, and most people are paying for some kind of discount program, whatever it is, right? Some kind of hosting, right, for their pictures and their storage. So what if all these these software components that we all pay for every single month, what if all those could become nodes? What if they could become micro nodes that paid out daily tokens, daily rewards? How cool would that be? Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Okay. So the idea that I'm doing this meeting right now, I actually, instead of paying for Zoom, which I used to do. I used to pay $20 a month for Zoom so I could have about 100 people in my room, and I could, have about 10 gigabytes of storage for my recordings and stuff. Well, now I pay that same exact price, $20 a month, but now I can have 300 people in my room, and I have 100 gigabytes of storage for my recordings, right? And I can have 1,000 people on a webinar, right? Which if I was doing it on Zoom, that would cost me like $500 a month. Crazy. But I get it all for just 20. And then what's even better than that, guess what? Yeah, I get daily tokens every single day, whether I use it or not. I'm still getting paid daily through the rewards program because it's a micro node. How cool is that? All right. So micronodes, think of them like this. Think of them going back to the analogy of our apartments, right? It's like having a mixed use apartment, okay, or building. So the top floors are, where you have your renters and people living there, but the services, the X1 nodes, are like the restaurant or the store that's on the bottom, right? So now you get a share of all the commerce that is happening in the storefronts on the bottom. How cool is that? Now you're getting, paid when people do a meeting or they store some, some data or they go shopping or whatever it is, right? Through the different services. Now they're getting rewarded. You're getting rewarded. We're all benefiting because there's actual transactions happening. There's actual commerce happening, and that is huge. Okay. So it's all utility driven, right? That's what makes the whole thing work. Is it's not just some pie in the sky idea. It's actual purpose driven utility of services and things that people use every day, right? These subscriptions are the backbone of the entire economic structure of this blockchain. It is so cool. So we call it the triple advantage because it's better products, right? Better pricing and better rewards. So whether it's a meeting like we're doing right now, or it could be a travel portal, right? And people book travel for way cheaper compared to the competition. And then knowing that they're getting rewarded through tokens, through a blockchain on top of it all. That is now the future. That's why we say the future is now, because all these services that we pay for anyway are now being tokenized, and we all get to be rewarded for it. So if that wasn't enough, now on top of that, you have the opportunity to say, you know what? I love the idea of being part of the future and the tokenization of the world and services and everything, but I want to make money now. In fact, I want to make money next Friday. And you say, okay, well, how can you do that? Well, very easy. So you can become what's called an affiliate or an associate with Cirrus Networks. Okay. So Cirrus is the marketing arm of Noti. And what that means is that you can join completely for free. And now you're a representative of Cirrus Networks, and you have the right to go out and share, whether it's nodes or the services, with other people, show them how cool they are. And if they decide to buy a node or to get one of the services, you get paid, but you get paid in actual dollars, right? Not just in tokens and rewards. You actually get money, okay? Actual dollars paid to you every Friday, all right? So very simple. You just join for free. You now have what we call a back office. You now have some links that you can share. You have access to videos and documents that you can send out to people that explain it, right? And if somebody's interested, then you have a link. You have a link for each individual thing. You have a link for nodes, you have a link for the Meetin product, you have a link for the Cirrus Safe for cloud storage. And then once we get other future products like card products and travel products and cell phone product, all these different things, you'll have a link for each of them that you can share specifically, right? So that people can just say, oh, okay, I want the travel thing, or oh, I want the card thing, or oh, I want the Meetin, right? And you can just send them right to that, and they can get it, and away you go. And then the following Friday, you're going to get paid. Okay. Now, if you're an entrepreneur and a leader, the other cool thing is that you can now build a team. So instead of being an affiliate, you might want to be what's called an associate. An associate means that you're now the leader of a team. And now what's going to happen is you can enroll some people who also want to enroll some people who also want to enroll it, right? And you create this duplication model of people out selling. It's your entire sales force, and you get a piece of all of it, right? So you get the lion's share from the ones that you personally bring. So if someone gets a node or whatever, you're getting 20 up to 30% on that. But you're also getting a percent of the people that they bring, and then the people that they bring, and so on, 6 generations deep. Okay. So that is really cool. So you got weekly payout, and then you got monthly payout based on what the entire team or organization or sales force is doing. And that is really cool. So we're going to look at a few just examples here. Okay. Some real world examples of what this could look like. So let's assume you need to make $1,000 quick. Okay. You're like, oh, the rent is due coming up, here in a few weeks. Or, oh, I need some extra money for Christmas or whatever it is. Well, guess what? You could go out, you sign up for free, and you just find three people who want to get a node. Okay. They believe in blockchain. They think it's cool. They want something that's going to, be a one-time purchase, and then it's going to pay them daily rewards for the next 20 years or so. And, and they want to do that, right? They think, oh yeah, that's great. I get it. I understand the concept, and I want to, be rewarded for providing that infrastructure to the blockchain. Okay, cool. So you go and you find three people. You're going to get 30% of the sale. All right. So that would be first you get 20% the following Friday. Okay. So you're going to get $720 on the very next Friday. And then you're going to get the other 10% on the 10th of the following month. Okay. So if you just sold 3 nodes per month, you can make an extra $1,080 every single month. How cool is that? Okay. That's one example. Well, what if you're more of the, what? I just want to go get some customers, right? I know I could get a whole bunch of people who want to be on the Meetin product because, they're all using Zoom or they're all using whatever. And there's so much more value in the Meetin product. And so, I think that'd be better, doing that. Okay, great. Well, what if you went and found 10 people? There's 10 people who wanted to be on the Meetin product, right? Because they like it, they think it's cool. Well, you're going to earn 20% of that monthly subscription paid out every single Friday. So that's $4 per person, right? So with 10 subscribers, you're making an extra $40 a month. Okay. So, not a ton maybe for the first month, but hey, you just keep sharing, right? Keep sharing with people, and it just continues to grow. And next thing you know, you got 100 subscribers over time. Well, there's an extra $400 a month. Why? Because people will keep paying for it. This isn't like, I'm going to try it and, I didn't like it, I'm going to quit, right? No, this is the triple advantage, better pricing, better everything, and daily rewards. The retention is going to be through the roof, right? People are going to keep doing it because they're having a good experience. It's got better options, better features, more stuff. There's, better pricing, and they're getting paid every day because it's a micro node. So they're going to stick with it. So next thing you know, extra $400 a month, that 100 turns into 1,000, whatever, you can see how that can go. And that's just with the one product, right? But then let's assume that you're an associate and you're building a team. You're a leader, right? And you're working with your people. And so now to qualify, you got to make sure that you have $100 of personal sales every month to qualify. Okay. So your main goal is to make sure that you're in profit, right? If you got to spend $100, or have $100 in sales from your customers, well, you want to make sure it's not coming out of your own pocket, right? So there's a strategy of a 3 and it's better than free. So what I would recommend, this is what I would do. I would go and find your top 3 leaders, okay, your generals, those that, your do or die people that you want to work with, and who will also duplicate what you're doing. And if you go purchase a mini node for 100 volume every month, right, to make sure that you're commission qualified, and you got yourself on a meeting subscription, right? Because if you're going to be doing this as a team leader, you need to have a meeting room that you can do meetings with your team and everything, right? So it makes sense to have a meeting subscription. Okay, so there's an 120 volume right there, and you just duplicate that. You have your 3 leaders do that. Okay, well, guess what? With 3 frontline leaders, you're now going to earn $30 per mini node. So that's 90. Okay. And now you're also going to get $4 for the meeting. So that's an additional $12. So guess what? You are now earning $102, which is more every month than what the mini node costs, including hosting. Because the hosting for a mini node is 75 cents, right? So it's $100.75 for a mini node plus hosting every month. You just made 102. It's better than free. You're actually in profit. Okay. And then you just duplicate that 3 times over, right? So you got 3 who invited 3, who invited 3, who invited 3. Guess what? You're making well over $500 a month that way, and probably more. Okay. That's just kind of the bare minimum. But that's how you do it. That's how you just make sure that you're in profit. And that's how you get the power of duplication going. We all know the power of geometric progression, right? And how that works, and how 3 turns into 9, that turns into 27, that turns into 81, that turns into, 243, and so on, right? And it just goes and goes. And next thing you know, you're rolling in the money because it's all coming in from the duplication happening. So, my friends, it's all about the timing. All of that is so cool, but the key that makes it all so enticing right now is the fact that we're in at the beginning. The whole world is becoming decentralized. It's going to happen, right? Almost everything is going to go on blockchain and be tokenized. And we are pioneering this idea of digital landlordship, of bringing everyday services to a blockchain where 93% of the world has yet to adopt it. Okay. So your timing could not be better. So the future is now. It's time to go and grab your spot, stake your claim, right? Say, yes, I want to be at the front of this. I don't want to be the person finding out about it later, the one that like, oh, what in the world just happened, right? No, we want to be part of this. It's free, for crying out loud. Free to jump in, be part of this. You got to know somebody who would use the meeting product. You got to know somebody that travels, right? You got to know somebody that streams videos. You got to know somebody that wants to save money when they go out to dinner or go shopping. So why wouldn't you just join for free and share those with some people and start making some money, right? And then even you, if maybe you want to travel, maybe you want to save money when you're shopping or whatever, and you can start being a digital landlord with daily reward payout for as little as just $10 a month. With just the Cirrus Safe product, it's only $10 a month. You can store your pictures in there, keep your files safe so they're not lost if your hard drive crashes or your computer gets stolen or whatever, right? $10 a month, you're starting out, you're in, you're getting daily payout in rewards, you're participating now in what is the future, and now you can start that journey with us. So the way you do it is you get back to the person that invited you to watch this presentation. You ask them for their link. You say, how do I join this thing for free? And then you decide what level you want to participate at, whether it's the $10 Cirrus Safe, the $20 meeting room, or a mini node for $100 one time, or you want to go full in, all in, get yourself a full node that's laying you golden eggs every day. You decide, but the future is now. So we have a special going on. If you're wanting to do this right away, from now until the 5th of December, we have a special Cyber Monday promotion where you can earn extra rewards. If you buy a full node, you're getting 10,000 extra rewards. Half nodes are 5,000 and quarter nodes are 2,500 nodie rewards paid on top of what you would normally get on a daily basis. So that's the promotion right now. Again, get back to whoever invited you to watch this. Ask how you can join with us and decide how you can apply blockchain and tokenization into your life, because believe me, you don't want to get left behind. All right, with that, we'll call it a night. Thanks so much for jumping on, and hopefully this was helpful, and we will see you all on the next one. Take care, everybody. We'll talk soon.
That was easy.
All right, we'll go ahead and stop the recording.